Hello, everyone, and welcome to Survive and Thrive this holiday season. I am joined today by Gary Chatham, and he is here to talk to us about boundaries and protection and stuff for empaths. I'm Tanis Coughlin from the Twillo Lifestyle Community, Twillo Lifestyle Academy. And Gary, would you like to tell them about yourself, please?
Hi, Tanis. Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Chatham. I have a master's in counseling, and I'm an intuitive life coach and have background in counseling and also some background in business. So I'm a Reiki master teacher, also do Aqualead and Nakti and a couple other energetic modalities. I do Bankston energy healing and almost finished training with my animal Reiki master as well.
Woohoo.
But I've been working with people intuitively starting since like 1993. So a long time helping people and moving faster than what traditional therapy can do.
Awesome. That's awesome. So when you're working with your clients, there's Jacqueline Richards. Hello, Jacqueline. She's another one of our teachers with the Twillo Lifestyle Community, Twillo Lifestyle Academy. Your clients and boundaries. What do you talk to them about with the boundaries when they're empaths?
Well, let's start with the basics.
Absolutely.
So we want to talk about what is an empath. And there's a new term that came out in the last few years from a psychologist named Elaine Aron, A-R-O-N, called HSP, or highly sensitive person. So what's the difference? So empath feels everything going on around them, feels the energy of other people, feels the energy of places and groups, and an HSP may also. So the difference is, well, you may feel movies, news, sounds, being in public, pick up on all those things very deeply, especially group situations. So the empath, by definition, is probably called to some type of a healing work. And their sensitivity, I believe, at least in my opinion, that a true empath can feel other people's wounds and energy patterns and relationship patterns to help the other person heal. Mm-hmm. So that's part of what's going on. So I think Spirit is bringing a lot of this forward now. There's a lot of people talking about being an HSP or being an empath because Spirit wants all of us empaths to get healed ourselves, to be able to launch out and then be able to do whatever work we're supposed to do to help other people. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a catchphrase now. So I would say, yes, every empath is highly sensitive, but no, every highly sensitive person or HSP may not be an empath. It just depends on your calling. So that's just how I break it up.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So why you're feeling each other's thoughts, other people's thoughts and feelings, it may be, like I said, because of the gift, or it may be because of how you were raised to something that you're just more sensitive in your nature. So before we get into talking about how to protect yourself, we want to look at patterns that are going on. So with the highly sensitive person or the empath, are we responding in relationships in a healthy way, or is there some codependency going on? And codependency is more the excessive emotional or psychological reliance on somebody else, especially for acceptance. And so energetic codependency is you always need somebody around. You need that somebody there to feel complete or to feel accepted. You don't feel right without them. So moving into a state of being conscious of what patterns are and what patterns are playing out with people, especially like family members during the holidays, mm-hmm. then that's the first step to defense, oddly enough, is making that conscious and not just falling into patterns subconsciously, just, as things come up. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the first step to stress and energies that might be overwhelming is take a few minutes, even if it's a few seconds, to just say, hey, what's going on here? Am I in a pattern that's healthy from my child, unhealthy from my childhood, or am I in a healthy pattern? And the energies that I'm feeling, are they mine, the feelings, the emotions, or are they somebody else's?
Mm-hmm.
Or am I taking responsibility for somebody else's emotional stuff and energy and taking it in? So we as empaths and HSPs have a choice of whether we just feel something and are aware of it, or whether we feel it and take it in and take it on. And the taking in and taking on is an unhealthy way to try to take responsibility for the situation or heal the other person. So maybe in your family dynamics, you were brought up to, as a 5-year-old, try to fix things in a dysfunctional family. Well, you didn't have much choice. But if you're the people pleaser, or the clown, or the comedian, or the hero that would try to come in and fix everything in a dysfunctional situation, obviously as a 5-year-old, you don't have much choice, but now you do have a choice. So, right. So I see someone says it's a choice to concentrate on those feelings. Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so your first step is just becoming conscious. And if you're with other people, maybe taking a minute in the bathroom, getting away for a couple minutes and saying, is this my stuff? Is this my energy? Or am I picking up from other people? Okay, if it's my stuff, is it a healthy pattern or is it an unhealthy pattern? And then you have a choice on how to respond to the other people. So especially with family, as an HSP, the holidays are especially challenging. They're challenging for everybody, but they're really challenging for people that are empaths or HSPs. And so becoming conscious and stepping back and saying, I have a choice. Am I going to respond to what my sibling said, or my cousin, or whoever, in that old pattern, or am I going to respond in a different way and not perpetuate the pattern, not play the game? So
yeah, and then it comes down to, are you being triggered? Because
right.
if it's triggered, then it's like your childhood stuff, and there's some healing stuff that could happen.
Right. So their energy, if they're playing out subconscious patterns, they can pull you back into old patterns from the past. Yeah. And then that's not something that can be especially healthy. It might be unhealthy. So pause and pull back before automatically responding. If your family member, maybe they're trying to demean you, or they want you, to fall into a pattern of taking blame or being the scapegoat or whatever, you don't have to respond. And knowing that you're already enough, you're already worthy, and you don't have to act out a role in order to be worthy or enough or to be accepted. Then from that place, you can choose how you respond to it. So
one thing I do with my clients for that is the Ho'oponopono.
Right.
In the mirror. Right. And I change it a little bit in terms of what I say. So it's like a repeating mantra. And it's, I'm sorry, please forgive me. You are worthy. I love you. Thank you. You are enough. So that's what I have people do in the mirror. So that way they start to build that up, that energetically up. And it's sometimes people find it difficult to do at first. So if you do find that you're struggling with that worthiness piece, maybe doing that a little bit in the coming weeks to sort of prepare you and make you feel more stronger within yourself, more empowered.
Right. And you could do that in the moment too, of just saying it to yourself inside. True. Without anybody knowing that you're saying it.
Yeah.
So when we have boundaries that have been overrun in childhood or through trauma, again, that might be something where your boundaries aren't strong, or you have trouble recognizing what's your boundary and what isn't your boundary, what is your stuff and isn't your stuff. So now you can choose how much you take in, like we're talking about, that we sense something going on in the room. We don't automatically think, oh, that's about me. We just think, oh, there's something going on. Then do we sense it and accept it and say, okay, that's what's happening? Or do we try to take it in and take responsibility as an empath? And that's part of that healing calling, but it's being played out in an unhealthy way sometimes, that we're taking it in and trying to fix it, taking it in and taking it on, instead of just saying, yes, it's out there, I see it. You can't see my hand, can you? Yes, it's out there and I see it, I'm aware of it, but I don't have to take it in. And then, like we've talked about before, you can do something with energy boundaries for yourself. So if you're attuned to Reiki or some other energy work, you can do Reiki for yourself before you go into those situations. And the same way, if you're going shopping at a crowded mall, you feel overwhelmed by crowd energy, again, you can do Reiki for yourself before you go, but you can do Reiki right in the moment. You can do Reiki on yourself silently, just visualize your symbols and say your mantras inside, and give Reiki to yourself in the moment with your family members.
That's why I wish, if I had my druthers, I'd have everybody trained in Reiki 1, because it's all about self-care.
Absolutely. And you know how I talk in little side tracks and then I get back to the main point. It's just so cool now, and I'd like to hear from people that are on about this, about how Spirit is calling all the empaths to be healed and to get trained and to step out into their healing calling. So it's a big shift of something that's happening now. So if you resonate with that, let us know in the chat. I think that would be a cool thing to hear.
Absolutely. It brings me to that, the wounded healer thing. Right? That wounded healer. And then the also what you were saying about not taking it on, right? Support, not save. There's a big difference between support and saving, right? Supporting is like, I'm here, I'm holding space for you. I will listen.
Right.
Saving is when we jump in and start giving advice.
Right. Or trying to take on somebody's pain to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So in a family situation, you could be triggered, and then, like I said, you don't take the energy in and you stop, even if it's just mindfulness in that second, and choose what you do with that. So if you want to leave the room, if you want to pause for a second, and then decide how you're going to respond. So that's all helpful stuff. And then what we've talked about before too is you can visualize different energetic boundaries. So some people just ask the light of the Holy Spirit to come and surround and fill and protect them as a boundary. Or as you and I have done, Tanis, we ask, Archangel Michael to come and do what we call a tubing. And that's to put a protective tube around us of light, and that anything that hits that tube gets transmuted into light and goes either into the earth or back up to the light to be changed into a high form of energy. So we just ask Archangel Michael, if it's appropriate, for as long as it's appropriate, please tube me. And yes, it's in your imagination.
Yes.
It's all happening in your imagination, but yet your imagination plus intention makes it happen. Actually,
so I've also added in a couple of other archangels often. So I'll often do Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Uriel, and Archangel Raphael. If it's appropriate, for as long as it's appropriate, please tube me. That's what I often do. So, both of them are great ones to move into and try. So give those a try and see how it works for you. Everyone's different.
Right. The big thing is just not falling for guilt trips or manipulation with family members or with other people, and being aware of it, and not being in that feeling powerless position of, oh my God, I've got to go back with the family. And so this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Well, realizing you have a choice, that you're not powerless in that situation, and you can decide how much energy to take in and how you respond to it. But I think the big thing is realizing that it may be part of a healing calling for you, and to maybe get help from someone, either a counselor or an intuitive counselor, someone spiritual counselor, on how to step into that calling, because then you'll learn to shift that pattern in healthy ways and be able to help other people. So I've been working with one of my Reiki students over a period of time who started, and she'll probably watch this and realize her stories there, but we won't say who she is.
We won't say any names.
No, we won't say any names. I call her my Padawan because she's, Star Wars terminology, because she's a good, close student and learning a lot. But when she was young, one of her grandparents suddenly passed away. And she took it on as a guilt feeling of something she'd done. And she was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And it started with that of A, she's very naturally sensitive, and B, taking on the guilt that she'd caused something or done something because there was something in the atmosphere. So a lot of times with our family patterns, we're into that mode where automatically we think, ooh, there's something wrong here. I did something wrong. And that's an old subconscious pattern that we may not even think that consciously, it just comes up. So she's learned over time that she has a choice, and that she's picking up on stuff and she can decide what to do with it. And she knows she has a healing calling. So she's doing Reiki training and Bach flower training with me, and then also getting trained in some other things. She's going to do art therapy training and some other things. So
awesome.
But her whole energy and demeanor has shifted a lot in the last several months. So,
it's amazing what it can do for you when you start to step into your healing role. It makes a big difference. I mean, both of us have gone through that. I went through that. I was in home healthcare and management and all that stuff. And then stepping into that healing role has made a huge difference for me in terms of, my health and my happiness and my well-being. And I feel like very blessed to be able to help others with it now. So it's quite a gift to be able to give that. We have somebody here, Facebook user. I wish I could stay, but I'm going to work. So wish you well. Have a good shift if you're going off to work.
There should be a replay link up too, so you can watch it later.
If you come back here, you can finish watching it later. That's right. Yeah. So we also have at the Twillo Lifestyle Academy, we also have what's called the Inner Synergy program, which we bring a whole bunch of different modalities in. And we train people up in, like, there's the Reiki training, Aqua Lead training, and I also have, we have teachers that do essential oils and yoga and what else are we doing? Crystals. So it's a very well-rounded kind of program. So you should, if you're interested in becoming a healer, please take a look at that one. And we have more than one Reiki teacher. A few of us teach Reiki, so there's different ones coming in, and it's really quite an honor, to be teaching these things now. And I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, it's
right?
exciting to be part of that shift to help humanity heal, and to bring healing that will bring in another phase of things happening in the earth. So
exactly. And we have a question here.
Yeah, from Ming. I see that.
That wasn't the question. Hold on. Here's the question.
Asked, are there Bach flowers for protection?
Yeah, or energetic boundaries. Yeah.
Right. I was going to get to that. So let's talk a minute about what flower essences are. And Bach flowers are a type of flower essences, and they differ from essential oils. So they're not aromatherapy, because they're two different types of things. Yep. Essential oils contain parts of the plant where a lot of the biochemical components are in the essential oil. Flower essences contain just a little bit of the physical, but a lot of the energetic imprint. So they're more carrying the energy of the plant to you as a gift. So a flower essence is made by very briefly, wearing a glove and pulling off, asking the plant permission, wearing a glove, pulling off the blossoms, putting them in pure spring water, and letting that bowl with the blossoms and the spring water sit and cook in the sun. So it's energizing and getting that energetic imprint as well as a little bit of the oil from the sun, and then it's put into smaller bottles. We won't go through the whole process, but smaller bottles, and then preserved either in non-alcoholic gelatin or in some type of an organic grape brandy, a little bit of alcohol to just preserve it so it won't won't degrade. So, and then it becomes diluted, but you're getting that energetic pattern of that. And so it comes from Dr. Edward Bach in the 1930s. He developed 38 flower essences to address 38 emotional, soul or psychological emotional types. And that's what's called Bach flower remedies. Now there's all kinds of people doing all kinds of different remedies from other plants besides just the 38 that Bach came up with. And he's British. Dr. Bach was British. So the Brits call him Dr. Batch. Dr. Batch. So one of the main essences for anxiety, to answer your question, Ming, is mimulus. So mimulus is about fears of things that are known. So when you know what you're having anxiety about or feeling afraid about, maybe even before you go into a situation, mimulus would be a great one to use. So you can do it like longer term. So I don't have my bottles right here. I have one bottle. This is a custom mix bottle. This is a custom mix I would make for a client where I'd put in 4 to 7 different flower essences in, they're already in the grape brandy. And so put several drops of those in, and this is just a pure spring water. So this is a custom blend. So if you have a blend or something that you want to use before you go into a situation, you can just take a couple drops and drop it in your glass of water and sip it over time. So sip it over a few hours before you go, and you'll start to feel a very gentle emotional shift. If you're in an emergency and want to do something right away, and you're in the car going to go into a situation, then you would just take out your dropper and take a couple drops under your tongue of mimulus or whatever you want to use, and getting it under the tongue is quick absorption.
And how do we spell that?
M-I-M, let me look, M-I-M-U-L-U-S.
And it's for anxiety, correct?
It's for anxiety, or it's to offset fears when you know what you're afraid of. I'm afraid of crowds at the mall. I'm afraid of seeing my uncle. I'm afraid of how my parents are going to react. So that would be a big one to start with. And from that, we want to shift. You'll feel an energetic shift. And you could use something like crabapple, which is another flower essence, to help you cleanse your energy and kind of open things up so you can have more light, bring in the light. So the first step with the mimulus is countering that fear and anxiety, and using something like crabapple would open up the light. And then you might use something like walnut to help you move into the situation with courage. Does that answer your question, Ming? That I would start with mimulus, and then if you have time, follow with crabapple. And then if you have more time, then follow with walnut after that. Or you can put them all in the same mix, but I would probably start with just the mimulus first.
I have put that in the chat for all of you in case you're.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you. But hopefully that helps. Okay. Yeah, she said yes. Thank you.
Awesome.
That would be a good starting point. I'm going to be teaching a course in basic flower essences with the Twila Lifestyle Academy coming up. So you can look in the calendar for that, coming up in the next weeks, actually.
Awesome. Do we have a date?
I think we have a date.
I shall look at that while you continue.
Oh, okay. I was going to look too.
It's okay. You continue. I'll find
I'm
it.
just so scattered today. I forgot the date.
It's okay.
So flower essences are not a substitute for medicine, and they don't replace what you're doing with a doctor. They can work in addition to medication. They're not going to cause any side effects unless, you might have a reaction to like a drop of alcohol. Otherwise, there's no side effect to them. And it's a very gentle thing that shifts your emotional state and shifts your energy field at the same time. So with flower essences, I usually, when I'm taking them, I'll feel something, I'll take something, I'll take a flower essence, and then go, oh, yeah. A little while later, it's like, I don't feel that way anymore. I shifted out
That's
of
awesome.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But the tendency is then to think about, okay, so I took care of the fears and people stopped there. But you want to move into being open to bring in more light and to move ahead with courage then. So you want to shift out of one state into the other, and that's where we get into using blends of 2, 3, up to 7 at a time, or sequentially doing one and then the other. So
the date of the class is Tuesday, January 17th at 7:30 p.m. Gary will be teaching introduction to
7:30 Eastern. And
yes, Eastern. That's correct. Right. Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm.
Right. So yeah, that's a good introduction for the flower essences. So,
awesome.
If you're familiar with Rescue Remedy, it's a popular remedy put out by the Bach Company, which is directly connected with Dr. Bach, that started it in the 30s from England. So you can get Rescue Remedy as a good quickie thing if you just want to grab something for the holidays without learning all the details of what to do. And that's a blend of 5 put in there, and that's good for you and could be good for all kinds of different situations.
So that's good for immune support as well, right? As well as the emotional stuff.
Yeah, we don't talk about the immune as much, but because you're changing your emotional state, it'll help your immune system.
Okay, so that's the connection where you're raising your vibration by using the flower remedies, and raising your vibration helps to raise your, make your immune system work more effectively then. Correct?
Right. Yeah, you're shifting your state, which then shifts your immune system. So, we won't say how long ago, when I did my master's thesis research with people with chronic fatigue syndrome. Chronic fatigue syndrome was a relatively new diagnosis. And I do see the question, Karen. I'll get to it in a second. But people didn't understand the impact of the emotions on the physical. They thought it was a virus, or they thought it was this and that. And there may be viruses and other things involved as a second layer with CFS. But it's all started with a large emotional trauma. So statistically significant group of the people that I worked with back then for the research had a big emotional trauma right before the onset of their physical symptoms. But even in the 80s, research in Europe was showing if you deal with underlying emotional stuff, even by journaling, by writing it down, the white cell count goes up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Ming is asking if the class will teach about blends.
Basically, but at least it's getting you introduced to the basics of each one, and then we can touch on blends a little. Sure. Mm-hmm. Blends become a whole art form in themselves. So if you're learning the basics of the 38 and knowing what the 38 are, that's a good place to start. Karen, I don't know about spraying something on a friend to help deal with difficult people. Okay, if you have permission, you could spray it on, but I think it's better to take it internally. Mm-hmm. So Rescue Remedy would be a good one just to start. And then, like I said, walnut for courage. So those are our basic good ones to start with. And if it's something that's having trouble with long term, I would, like I said, put a few drops in water so he's sipping it long term over time if it's a long term situation. If it's a situation he's running into where he's got to go into a meeting or got to see people or whatever, then take a few drops under the tongue with a little time before you go in. But you could spray on, but with flower essences, it's better to take internally if you have that permission, and they're involved with the therapy.
Yeah, there's that whole ethics piece.
Right. Yeah. So you don't want to spray something on someone without their knowledge or permission.
Exactly.
And we do put essences on sometimes, but 90% of the time it's internal.
Which is different from the essential oils, right? So
totally
the
different.
essential oils, you might have a spray that you would do that with, but the flower essences is very different. Just like most times you don't take essential oils internally.
No, I would say almost never take essential oils internally. Where flower essences, you're taking them internally almost all the time. So you need to know the difference and need to know where they're coming from. So some brands, just to look at, Botanical Alchemy is a company in California that's run by a friend of mine named Clifton. He's from England, but he's living in Southern California. He's got great blends that he's come up with that are proprietary to his company for essential oils. He'll also mix gem elixirs in, which is another thing. And he's got a room cleanser blend, which I'd have to grab it. I have it down here. I have to grab it and see. I think it's called Isis blend, and it's great for clearing out the energy in a room or an environment. And he mixes different flower essences with gem elixirs with 1 or 2 essential oils. So he's got all of it going on at once, but it's made to be sprayed out and not taken internally. Most flower essences you are going to take internally. So your Bach brand, you can take internally. FES, Flower Essence Society, they have a healing herbs line, and those are little half-ounce, you can't see my finger, half-ounce bottles. Those are made to take internally, but just make sure you're not taking essential oils from like doTERRA or Young Living or Revive or some of those that you would almost never take those internally.
Ruth's going to be teaching more about that. She'll have some classes coming up in January if you want to know more about the essential oil piece, because she's super knowledgeable about that stuff too. So it's great. We have a great team. So
right. She knows a lot about essential oils where I just know enough to be dangerous, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah, right.
I leave that to I refer to Ruth for that. So
right. The flower essences that I know and other homeopathics I've had training.
Yeah, you do the other stuff too, right? The other homeopathic.
I do too. the boron homeopathics, and that's a whole nother art form and diagnosis and therapy process in itself. Estella, I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly.
Estella, yeah.
Estella.
Welcome back, Estella. She's back for 10 minutes, so that's great.
Oh, okay. I see this. Okay. Yep, welcome back. Does that answer your question, Ming? We'll touch on blends, but the first class is just a basic understanding of how to use the 38. And so you can think about blends, talk about blends, but we'll cover blends and more of a diagnostic process in the second level. So it's there. I'm just putting the second level together. It's not quite written yet. And that's more of a beginning to do therapy for others and yourself, putting things together. And there's a whole process that we use for flower essences. If you have training, that encourages me to get my second level.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm saying yay too because I'm looking forward.
I know I've got a naturopathic MD here in town that wants both levels too. So with working with other people with flower essences, you want to do a live interview, but I've probably sent them a questionnaire first. So they're questionnaires that I've taken from other sources, like my teachers and other places, and changed them and finessed them and done different things.
Made them your own.
And right. So first is present situation right now. What's your biggest, concern about the present situation? So there's probably 40 or 50 questions about the present situation.
Wow.
And what you're doing is checking for each of the 38 main ones. And there's more than one question for each flower essence. So you're going to score it and say, well, they only had 1 for walnut, but they had a 3 for mimulus, so we need to do mimulus.
Right.
And then we're putting a blend together based on that. And then the second part is more chronic, more long-term patterns.
Right.
And again, several questions for each one, so you can see chronic patterns, and then can again score that. Well, they had a 0 for this one, but they had a 3 or 4 for this one. So, and then the last one is your the real long term, the real root cause questions. So there's 3 sections to it, but you take that questionnaire and combine it with what you get with live interviews. So you're working with them either as an intuitive counselor, or a Reiki therapist, or a massage therapist, or professional counselor, or something, where you've got some interaction with them. So you're reading their energy and listening to them talk about situations in their lives. And so, yeah, I've got problems with such and such, my boss, and he triggers me, and blah, blah, blah. And so you've heard about that, and you see that pattern, and then that's confirmed by what's on the questionnaire. So that helps you put all that together.
Awesome.
So there's a whole art to doing the blends.
Yeah, definitely. So level 2, stay tuned.
Right, long response.
It's perfect.
Any other questions that anybody has about energy and protection? Boundaries. Being conscious of your boundaries, taking time to pause and saying, how do I want to respond to this? First asking inside, is it mine, or is it somebody else's that's out there?
Mm-hmm.
My clients always laugh at me because I say poop is the clinical term. So is it somebody else's energetic poop out here, or is it mine?
Yeah.
Am I feeling this because I feel triggered, or am I picking up on something that was in the room before I came in?
Yeah, because that can happen too, right? When we're out and about.
Yeah.
So.
And if you're very sensitive, you can pass people in a shopping mall and go, wow, they're really angry today, or they're really depressed today. And then you can choose whether you take that in or not.
I had that happen on the street the other day. Somebody walked by me on the street, and they weren't even like right beside me, but I was like, ooh, okay.
Right.
I'm not taking that. It's not mine.
I had a friend years ago when I was just learning about this stuff, who's a massage therapist, and she learned Reiki too. And we were driving in the car and going down the interstate in the U.S. in Illinois, and I didn't always understand everything she said, but I learned from her, she learned from me, and she said to this other driver of this other car, she was like, get your energy back in your car. I don't want your energy. And so she was so sensitive, she was picking up from another driver, and we're in a different car. But there was something with loud music, and there was, the whole energetic stuff coming out of the car. She's like, get your stuff back in your car.
Take that back. Here's another question from Karen. There's a family member who constantly tries to pull me in. How can I listen while protecting myself, as I feel drained always from it?
Sometimes there's energy suckers, energy vampires, and that's part of the pattern that we as empaths can fall into, is then if we're in a pattern that's unhealthy with someone, we may be trying to fix or help or heal or take responsibility, but then the people that know that we have that nice, light, caring healing energy will come and try to suck our energy or use us to feel better. And then we wind up feeling drained as a result of that. So I'm pulling up the
This one
question.
says she's tried Ho'oponopono and tubing. I need to listen, but I can't stop myself from being pulled in. Okay. So that's probably something a little bit deeper because it's family. There's probably some family trauma stuff happening there. So that would be probably flower essence, like what you were talking about in terms
flower
of
essence. And I would work with an intuitive life coach, an intuitive counselor, because there's something deeper that needs to be like a deep pattern that's subconscious probably. So it's nothing you're doing consciously. You're probably not doing anything wrong, Karen. You're in an old pattern from years ago, probably with a family member. So it's to make that subconscious conscious and work through a healing process with the pattern that's getting triggered. So that would be part of it. But yeah, flower essences would help too. And do work before you go, before you're around that person.
And the crystals as well, like we've talked about some crystals. So using a bunch of different tools. If you're stuck and have to go like right away, like using some essential oil ones for protection, using your black tourmaline and selenite, have that stuff with you, and then do the tubing as well. Like sometimes it's a layering effect that we do to create the layers of protection energetically, right?
Defining thing.
Yeah. And then if you start getting into the deeper stuff, that's where if you're going to start to deal with the emotional piece, that's where you start looking at the flower essence and stuff will help you move through those emotions like Gary was talking about. And then if for long term, to deal with it long term, talking to somebody and working out those family patterns, I think. So that's what I could see as being a good way to go.
I'm being silly. I'm digging around in my bag looking for Clifton's room cleanser to read. That's in there.
While you're doing that, let's take a look at Ming's question. When I'm around some people who have very high frequency, my Kundalini rises and it's uncomfortable. Is there any energy boundary tips on how to keep my Kundalini down, not have higher frequency people affect me? Look for advice not to pull up. Okay, so I would say grounding for sure.
Right. What is it about the higher frequency that sets you off? I'm not sure. Normally, higher frequency would be healing. Maybe do you mean like higher intensity? Like high intensity?
Super sensitivity to high intensity energy.
Okay.
So either good or bad, it's high intensity that is
high intensity,
difficult.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say that the boundary thing, doing the tubing. Again, I think it's a layering thing for you, Ming. I think it's doing the crystals, doing the energetic tubing, like the Archangel Michael one. I would say the flower essences might be a good way for you to go in terms of that. So maybe check with Gary on some of those, or using the ones that he's mentioned in the chat there. But the sensitivity is it would be like very high sensitivity, I would say. Kundalini, when the Kundalini is activated, right, it really does increase your sensitivity. So you open up that whole thing of all of your, like our usual ranges here, right, for all of our senses. And when we raise our vibration, which is what happens when the Kundalini gets activated, our range goes out like this. So all of a sudden you've got all of this stuff, and it can be really overwhelming if you're super sensitive. So that's, I think, what she's referring to, is that kind of thing. So keeping yourself grounded and stable is important. I mean, do you have any ideas on grounding? We did a show last night on grounding.
Right.
Some of those
I would
thoughts.
use rescue remedy. I like tennis, and I talked about doing everything. Grounding, you can visualize red light energy going from your sacral chakra down into the earth, and grounding into the earth where you are, asking Mother Earth to help you ground. And also you have chakras in the bottom of your feet. that you
Use
can
those.
visualize. Yep, energy going down into the earth. And if you feel intense energy coming at you, you can ask it to go down into the earth. It just runs through you and out into the earth.
I would also say, she's got a thing here saying my head burns. I would also recommend that you intend that your crown chakra closes a little bit. So you're not pulling in quite as much energy, because our chakras move, like they change size just by intention. We can open our chakras just with intention, and we can close them a little bit with intention. So
Right.
just intention. So if you can picture your chakra, right, coming out of the top of your head, it's like a cone shape. Just picture it just closing in a little bit so that you're not able to pull in quite as much light, and opening up the lower ones more. That should help a little bit with that, I would think.
Right.
So I hope that's helpful, Ning.
Yeah, and ask about the pattern between you and this person or people. What's happening with that? Is there something for you to be aware of? Is there something for you to look at or work on with that? Because if it's always the same person or people, then there may be something to take a look at. The big thing is to realize you have a choice and you're not powerless.
Right.
So you have a choice of how to respond. You have a choice to leave or take a bathroom break or whatever, just to get a minute. So you always have some degree of choice with that. You don't have to feel trapped and powerless with it, because that whole powerless feeling is another part of the pattern that's not great.
Ears burn too. Are there ear chakras? Yeah. I mean, we have a whole bunch of chakras, right? We hear about the big ones, the 7 and then the 12 big ones, but we have chakras all over our bodies, actually, smaller ones, right? At the end of all of the channels, there's chakras. So yeah, just have the intention that all of your chakras close down when you go to do it. See if that'll help.
Right.
Not
And then
close completely. You don't want them to close completely, but definitely close down.
and don't forget to open them up then.
Yeah, when you're ready.
Away from that when you're ready, right?
Exactly.
Bye, Karen. Thanks
Bye,
for being
Karen.
here.
Thanks for coming.
So I've got in my hand what we talked about, the botanical alchemy from Clifton, California. It's called the Isis Temple Aura Cleanser and Life Force Renewal. And he's got essential oils and flower essences and gem elixirs, lovingly handmade in small batches, he says.
Beautiful.
So you want to gently shake, and then it's got a spray thing. So you would not take this internally, but you can spray it out in the room. So especially between clients, and you'll smell a little bit with the flower, with the essential oils. Yeah, but it's not a heavy scent. It's very, very gentle. So you can think of a mix like that too. You can spray it on you if you want, but don't take it internally.
So that's interesting, because I've been doing a spray now for a while, a clearing spray that has essential oils and crystal elixir in it. I haven't added in the flower essences, so that's an interesting thing to think about and see whether it would add to it.
He was one of the first ones that I saw that combined all three. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I can get you flower essences, or you can order directly from those places, from botanicalalchemy.com or Flower Essence Society, FES, Healing Herbs, or the Bach Company are good places to get all of those. And there's other brands too that I'm not even aware of all the brands. There's Australian flower essences and a whole Australian company that they're reputable, but I don't have training with all of theirs. So it's a whole different ball game. So what started with Dr. Bach in the 30s has grown into something, really big. So
yeah, because it's effective. I take the rescue remedy quite frequently, actually. I just do it as almost a daily maintenance, kind of, not daily, but close to it. Yeah.
Yeah, Lotus Way. Yeah, Lotus Way is another one that I've heard of. Yeah, I've watched some of their YouTube videos. And, yeah, I'm familiar with that. I have accounts with Clifton with Botanical Alchemy and FES, Healing Herbs. So I'm more familiar with their stuff. But with healing and with the whole energetic thing, if we do our therapy or our techniques on as many different dimensions as possible, like we were talking about with the layering, but think about, I'm thought stopping, I'm mindful, I'm choosing how I respond, or I'm taking myself out of the situation, or I've given myself Reiki before I come in. So that's an energetic thing. Flower essences are energetic, but yet it's still a physical interaction to shift the energy. And then all those different things together, meditation before you go in. So hitting on the emotional, on the mental, on the energetic, making sure you have enough sleep before you go into those situations, just some common sense stuff, and asking for supernatural help with the angelic tubing. So combining those, but thinking about, here's emotional, here's cognitive, here's energetic, here's physical, here's as many different dimensions as I can hit.
Yeah, speaking of the dimensions, so asking for protection in all of the dimensions, all the lifetimes, all the time frames, all of that stuff is helpful as well. So I do have a more extensive one that I use from time to time. So if anybody is really in need of that, please reach out and we can chat about it.
Cool. Any other questions? I've gone through my basics of what I was going to talk about tonight, but the whole Bach flower thing is, it's bringing us back to a state of, the flowers are in a state of balance, and they're showing us to how to retrain and reset our energy back to a state of balance. So we may have been out of balance for a long time, but if we do some flower essence therapy, even over weeks, or longer if necessary, then it starts to shift that back into a state of balance. And if you combine flower essences with life coaching, counseling, Reiki, those other things, and it's even more effective. But everything we're talking about is a type of, I don't know, it's a funny thing, but a spiritual psychology. So we're talking about emotions, plus we're talking about energy, and we're talking about family patterns, which is psychology, but we're talking about energy and grounding and those things. So it's more of a spiritual psychology, which is what empaths and HSPs really need right now, to know how to navigate not just the holidays, but all types of situations. So pursue spiritual psychology where you're combining things together.
So we have another question here. So when saying Ho'oponopono prayer in the mirror, the sorry part is apologies for what intention? So those are, for me, that whole thing is all about healing the collective, right? We're part of the collective. So when you're saying I'm sorry, it's I'm sorry for my part in whatever the situation is, right? Whatever that is. So it could be, and sometimes it's if it's something that's happened to you, like when you're a kid, for instance, it's still, I'm sorry for being in the wrong spot at the wrong time, or I'm sorry you are not where you need to be. There's all sorts, it depends on the situation. So I can't say that completely, but the overall intention of it is to heal whatever the connection is. So the apology is like healing the overall situation. That's what the intention is. So not just saying you're sorry for that. So, and then I forgive you, or sorry, what is it? I'm sorry. Please forgive me. The please forgive me part is, it's about forgiving the whole situation, right? So sometimes and just by having a focal point, whether it's in the mirror or somebody's face or whatever that is, it just directs the energy to the right direction, and the right direction of the collective, because we are really doing it on ourselves, because we are all connected. We are all one. So when we're doing that, that's kind of what that is. Does that answer your question, Ming? It's really about
you're not taking on blame for something.
no.
Most things were done subconsciously, especially if it's something that happened when you were a child.
That's right.
Yeah, you're not taking on blame for something. You're just saying, please forgive me for my part, my presence or whatever in the situation.
Because every situation there's two parts, so or more, depending on the people. Okay, great. I'm glad it's helpful. Awesome. Right. So we're coming up to the hour for us, I believe. So did you want to tell people how to reach you?
Yep, you can find me at garychatham.com. So my last name is CHAT and then Ham, HAM, on the end. And that's probably the easiest way to find me, through the website that way.
Yeah, or you can reach him through Twillo Lifestyle as well, because he's on with us as a practitioner as well as a teacher. So you can find him on there as well. And he'll be teaching those classes. So again, if you're interested, the Flower Essence class is on Tuesday, January 17th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And that you can find on the twillolifestyle.ca website under the classes and workshops. And then he's working on his level 2. So we'll be able to get that in there probably in the spring at some point. And Jackson says this is super groovy. Here we go.
Thanks, Jacqueline. You're super groovy too.
Yeah, for sure. We love you. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions to either of us. I can certainly get a hold of Gary if we need to as well. And I guess we will sign off now then.
All right.
Unless there's anything you'd like to mention as an outgoing comment.
No, it's just more mindfulness of realizing what patterns are playing for you and realizing you have a choice of how to respond, whether you're in them or not. And if you do find yourself in them, how to handle them and how to respond. So you're never in a powerless position. So you can reset and recharge.
Awesome. So thank you, Gary. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Love you lots. We have a great team, Twillo Lifestyle Academy, Twillo Lifestyle Community. So please reach out if you have questions or concerns over the holidays. We're happy to help. And thank you for joining us. We're sending you tons of love. And we shall see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock with Jacqueline Richards. She'll be joining us for a money plan. And tomorrow night at 7, Ramsey Cheedy will be having his open mic, and Gary and I will be on there along with Jennifer and Ramsey to give you a big sum up of the week of all of our stuff that we've brought forward. So hope to see you there. Have a great night. Sending you lots of love.
Thank you. Have a good night.